Hello everybody, it's Sarah, and today we're having the second tag this week on my channel because I had to have a little change of plans, sadly. I mean, not sadly, because I'm actually really excited to do this tag. But the reason why I had to have a change of plans is I had originally planned for my spoiler-free review of Rhythm of War to be up today. However, I won't have time to film. I mean, it's Friday now for me. I'm currently still reading this. I'm currently still doing my 24-hour read of this, and I won't have time to film on Saturday or Sunday. So yeah, cannot do anything about uploading this. So you'll get it probably on the 1st or 2nd of December. One or the other. And so what I decided to do instead is I was tagged by Monica from Mooney Reads to do her first bookish things, first times bookish tag. Oh my god, I'm so bad at this. Anyway, you'll see the title of the tag in the description, not in the description, in the title of the video. So that tag, which she tagged me in, and it's an old tag of hers that she redid so she can force all her friends to do it. And of course Monica is one of my closest friends on BookTube and she's amazing, so definitely go and check her out if you haven't already. But honestly, if you haven't, what have you been doing so far? Like, she's amazing. She reads a lot of sci-fi as well as some like thriller, creepy stuff, horror stuff, and focuses a lot on diverse reads. And so again, her channel will be linked down below and also her video will be linked down below. And so let's get into the tag, and the title suggests it's all about our first times when it comes to books. And the first question is, what was the first book I read that was like full length, not a picture book or anything like that? And I can actually remember the first picture book I ever read, which was Der Zauberer im Badeschaum. But I guess this doesn't count because in this book some of the words, especially the nouns and the verbs, are substituted with little symbols. And also I don't even know if I really read it because this used to be my favorite nighttime story when I was a little child. And then someday I just decided I wanted to read it on my own, but I already knew it by heart anyway. But I read this for the first time alone when I was 4 years old. And then I started reading quite soon after that in elementary school, and I remember like which books I read and which series I read, but I can't like properly remember which book was the first one that I truly read on my own because they all jumbled together. I read a lot of Thomas Brezina, who is he an Austrian or is he a German author? I don't remember. He's one or the other. I read a lot of Knickerbockerbande, which is like one of those children team detective story, mystery type stories with a little bit of like, maybe this is supernatural, is it, isn't it, elements in there. Absolutely love that. Then the Magic Treehouse, I think that's also one of the series that I read a lot. But I think the book where I'm like reasonably certain that this was the first one I read, although I read it probably with 6-7 years old and I can remember shit from that time. I'm sorry. But the first book I think I read alone is Madita by Astrid Lindgren. Astrid Lindgren, of course, is a Swedish or was a Swedish children's author. She's the author of Pippi Longstocking. If you don't know Astrid Lindgren, you probably at least know her character of Pippi Longstocking. And this is one of her other like children's novels, and it follows Madita, who is a young girl, and the stuff that she gets up to in her little village, as well as the stuff she gets up to with her little sister and so on. And I really enjoyed it. And so I think this is the first novel I ever read. I'm reasonably certain again. Second, what is the first series I finished? And again, I don't remember anything. I started reading a lot really soon. And so especially between the ages of like 10 to 13, I read a lot of the series that are still now my favorites, but I don't remember exactly like which ones I finished first. At first I thought it must be the Inkheart series, but then I remembered that Ink Death only came out quite late, and I read the first 2 books before the third one came out, and the third one came out when I was 12. So can't be Inkheart. So I think it must be the Chronicles of the Emerged World, because I read Aragon at the very beginning of when I started school, like after elementary school. So like Austrian school system is basically you have 4 years of elementary school, then you have 4 years of junior high school, I guess. And then you can either stay in the same school, the same high school for the last 4 to 5 years, or you can move to some kind of specialized school. Like you have a lot of schools that already specialize in like educating you towards a certain field or towards a certain job or something like that. And so after elementary school, which is when you're 10, 11, you move to high school, I read Aragon as the first book, or one of the first books. I think I read it in my first year of high school when I was 11. And I read this directly after. And Aragon wasn't finished yet, but this was. So I think The Chronicles of the Emerged World by Licia Truisi should be the first series I ever finished. I am really not sure though. Again, I don't know anything anymore. Other contenders are the Black Magicians trilogy by Trudy Canavan and also the Demon Child trilogy by Jennifer Fallon. Like, one of these three is the first series I ever finished. Number 3, what was the first book-to-movie adaptation you remember watching knowing it was a book-to-movie adaptation? And Monica had this very specifically, like knowing it was a book-to-movie adaptation. If it wasn't like knowing it was a book-to-movie adaptation, I think it would probably be like the Jungle Book, like the Disney version. And knowing it was a book-to-movie adaptation, either Harry Potter and the Sorcerer's Stone or Harry Potter and the Chamber of Secrets. I can't remember if I specifically already knew going into the Sorcerer's Stone or Philosopher's Stone. Why am I using the American version? The Philosopher's Stone. I can't remember if I specifically already knew that this was a book, but I know that my mom bought me the books right after we saw the movie. And that was when I was 6 years old. So it was around the time when I started reading. So yeah, I think that must be it. Or again, 1 year later, The Chamber of Secrets, because with that one I definitely did already know it was a book, since I had already had the book read to me, because my mom did read the books to me. So yeah, that's that, I guess. And yeah, now we can move Harry Potter away from screen again. Question number 4, who was my first bookish crush? And again, I have 2 choices for that, because I don't remember if I consciously was already crushing on him, but one of them, the one I definitely read earlier, was Murtagh from the Aragon series. Although I don't remember if I was already crushing on him when I just read the books or only after I saw the movie, which of course is horrible, but like, Garrett Hedlund as Murtagh is everything, and yeah, big fat crush on him. But the first character where I truly crushed on him, like on the character without anything else, movie or whatever, possibly influencing me, was Acherin from the Black Magicians, not Black Jewels, Black Magicians. Magicians Guild? The Black Magicians trilogy. I think that's it. Ah, I'm so tired. I slept way too not enough tonight. What is grammar? Anyway, Acherin was dark and brooding and way too old. He's like over 30, but 12-year-old me had the biggest crush on him. And like, my fan casting from the very beginning when I first read it was Ben Barnes, so that might have had something to do with it. And also Hannah, my roommate, my best friend, also had a big fat crush on him, and we were simping together for the character that Acherin is, because oh my god, dark and handsome, so beautiful. So number 5, who was your first bookish friend? And I don't know, like off the internet, almost all of my friends. Like Hannah, we bonded a lot over reading. I mean, we didn't really bond a lot over reading, because I don't know if I ever talked about that, but Hannah and me were like 1.5 months apart, and our moms, like her parents and my mom, were high school friends, and our moms were obviously pregnant at the same time, so I've known her literally all of my life. And so books just happened to be something we had in common, because pretty much all throughout high school she would, like, once a month she would come over to my place and stay the whole weekend, like from Saturday in the morning to Sunday in the evening, and half of the time we spent not talking to each other but just both reading something, either manga or books, obviously. So that was a lot of our childhood, and it's also part of the reason why her bookshelf isn't that impressive, because she pretty much always borrowed my books, and I pretty much always lent her my books, so, or forced them on her, one or the other, you know. I cannot count the series she read because of me. So that's obviously my first bookish friend, but she was my first friend ever. And then also in high school I had a really good friend, and I think the first time we really bonded was over reading and over our shared love for reading. And we actually started our booktube channels together, was Anna, but she stopped after like a year, I think, and I continued on, obviously. And we aren't in contact that much anymore. We had a falling out in between, and then we kind of made up again, and now we're just both living our lives. And you know, it's like the thing with a lot of high school friends who were a really important and big part of your life, but then once you actually start living life, a lot of times you just, nothing really happens, but you just kind of live your separate lives and you grow apart. So yeah, that was like my other bookish friend that I specifically made, I guess, because of books. But yeah, let's move on to the next question. Question number 6. What was the first adult book you remember not reading for school? And as I have said a lot in my videos before, I pretty much started shopping in the adult fantasy section when I was 11 years old. And I think my first one either was the Black Magician's trilogy or the Demon Child trilogy. Again, I cannot really remember which of the two I read first, but it would be either one or the other. Number 7, who was your first character role model? And I have to say I never really had like characters as role models. Although someone that I absolutely loved, almost in a role model type of way, was Suriel from the Black Jewels trilogy by Anne Bishop. She is like, she is a prostitute assassin, like an assassin prostitute. Prostitute assassin sounds like she's an assassin killing prostitutes. She's a prostitute as well as an assassin, and she uses one of her chosen fields, prostitution, to kill people, mostly men who raped women. So that's why she's also an assassin. And she was amazing, and she's probably not the right role model for an 11-year-old kid, but man, I just loved her, and I just loved how strong she was and how confident she was. And I don't know, there was just something about her that like I really aspired to be like, not as in being a prostitute assassin prostitute, but just the way she held herself or holds herself within the novels just was something I really loved. Not taking shit from anyone, but also sometimes being vulnerable and so on. And so yeah, that's why I would choose her as like my first role model. Number 8, who was the first author you were truly inspired by? And that again would be Anne Bishop. Like, her books, The Black Jewels, changed the way I looked at the world at the time so much. Gave me a home when I really needed it. Like, just her writing was so important to me, and it was the first time when I was like, I want to be an author. Not because I want to write or anything, but I want to give the same feelings to other people that these books gave to me. And in a way I still have that. I still have the thing where I'm like, I want to do something with my life where I can touch people. And so yeah, definitely, and Bishop is the first author that truly touched me. Question number 9, what is the first book you remember truly touching or moving you? And for that I just noticed that I yesterday apparently ruined this book because I had my lamp on my shelf back here, so you know, I could shine on the book in the front and I could read. And I moved my chair wrong and it fell down, and while falling down it must have, you know, ruined this book. But yeah, this is Wolf's Saga by Käthe Reichheis. And again, I have also talked about this story a lot before on my channel. This is the first book that ever made me cry. And my mom was a standalone mom. And I did spend half of my time with my dad, but when I was with her, she still raised me alone. And a lot of her work she did from home. And obviously she couldn't do that after I was home from school and so on. So there was this rule where from 6:30, 7, something like that, I was still allowed, or when I was a child, until I started in high school, until I was about 10 years old. So from 6:30, 7, I wasn't allowed in the living room anymore, so she could work. And I was still allowed to read or play in my room or anything until I went to sleep, but I wasn't supposed to, you know, disturb her working. And when I was, I think, 9 years old or something, I read this book for the first time. And there was a scene in this book that made me cry. And I remember it was at night and I wasn't supposed to go into the living room anymore and disturb her anymore because obviously she was working. But I just went to the living room and I told my mom, I'm crying, something happened in this book, I don't know what's going on, it's just a story, why am I crying? And I remember her just holding me and telling me it's okay and that it's not just a story and that we're allowed to be moved by stories. And just like holding me and letting me cry until I was done crying. And yeah, so that's why this book is the first book that truly touched me. And yeah, that's like also why I still absolutely love this book. I'm gonna try to like repair this somehow. What was the first classic you read not for school? And I'm like reasonably sure it was The Picture of Dorian Gray when I was like 14, 15 years old. But yeah, I always read classics, mostly not for school, not that much for school, but we didn't have to read that many classics, like especially English classics, because of course English was second language thing in school, so we had a few classics we had to read, but not that much, and most of them we could choose on our own. So I think The Picture of Dorian Gray was the first one I read for school, not for school, so yeah. But again, I don't remember. 11, what was the first YA book you read? And again, I think it must have been Aragon, probably. I think before that I pretty much mostly read middle grade, or like books that fall into that middle grade YA in-between range. But the first truly YA book, I think, was Aragon. Or if we want to go with very classic YA, it would probably be Twilight. And the last question is, what was the first ebook you ever read? And when I watched Monica's video, my reaction to that question was, I have never read an ebook because I don't like ebooks. And I don't know, there's something about ebooks that like stories pull me in a lot less, and also I just enjoy, like, in German I would say haptisch. I don't know if there's like a word for this in English, like haptic, I don't know. Like the physicality of reading a book is something that I enjoy, and that is a big part of the reading experience for me. So I don't have an e-reader, I don't have like any ebooks that I have read really, except for one exception that I remembered, and that was the first time I was in Japan. And I didn't really feel any of the books I had taken with me, so I downloaded Heir to the Shadows, which is book 2 in the Black Jewel series, and read that. And I had downloaded it onto my tablet. So yeah, that was it for this video, and that was it for this tag. I will leave like all the people I tag on Twitter again, And with that said, I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, maybe think about giving me a thumbs up and also maybe subscribing. All the links are in the comments down below. Now, I am so tired. I cannot tell you how tired I am. Anyway, tell me in the comments down below like your bookish first times. Also, all my links as always are in the description box, so definitely go and check all of them out. And I hope I'll see you soon. Bye!